Bing bong. We are live with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. I am joined with Justin of the Rocket City Bitcoin Meetup at Huntsville BTC on Twitter. Justin, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing awesome. I'm honored to be here. You're a good friend in real life, and I'm always wanting to support my friends.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you coming on. I guess a little bit about the backstory of us is I actually went up to the Nashville Bitcoin meetup, and yeah, we just got to talking all about Bitcoin, and then yeah, we connected a couple other places too. Yeah, then we linked up in Bitcoin Miami. We just kind of kept in touch since. So it's been good to get to know you and yeah, see the Huntsville meetup grow. Let's get into that. So you started or the co-organizer of the Huntsville Bitcoin meetup. So what has that experience been like, and why did you decide to make that and start that up?
And it started back in November of last year. I've always been following Bitcoin close. I can say the first time I became aware of Bitcoin was in 2014. I found a magazine at a local brewery here in Huntsville, Alabama, and it was a Bitcoin magazine. Now, it's not Bitcoin magazine, but it was a magazine about Bitcoin. And so I picked it up, and I've been down the rabbit hole ever since. And so, fast forward to 2021, I said, man, I've been sitting on the sidelines for too long. I want to try to do something in my community, Bitcoin related. And so I became aware of meetups, and luckily, I live close enough to the Nashville meetup. Shout out to the people in Nashville, Rod and Mels. Um, and I went down there, and somebody introduced me to Rod, and I told Rod, I said, "Man, I want to bring this back to Huntsville, Alabama." And he says, "Man, you know what? There's another guy here from your hometown that's interested in doing that." And so I was blessed to meet my co-organizer, who we would refer to as B. I wouldn't be able to pull this off if it was not for him being a good partner. And so, we got to know each other from November to December. And then me and B decided to get together and start doing meetups in January. And we've been doing it ever since. And everything's been turning out pretty good. We have a lot of good members. I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Rocket City Bitcoin Meetup, new members, soon to be members, the OG members. We love all you guys. We wouldn't be anything without you. And that's pretty much the story, man.
That's awesome. Huntsville, a lot of people kind of think of it as maybe like a small town, but growing up in Austin and kind of traveling around the Alabama area and going to school in Tennessee too, I kind of know that Huntsville is a little bit more of a techie town than people maybe are familiar with. So why don't you kind of describe Huntsville, Alabama as a city as a whole?
Well, it's a very diverse city. It is techie. We're known for NASA, Space and Rocket Center, Space Camp. We have a lot of government funding. We have Redstone Arsenal. So we may be small in population, but we have a very intelligent city. That's the best way I can describe it. Um, Recently, I want to say over the last 2 years, population wise, we have become the largest city in Alabama. So just based on the population and the type of people that we have, that's one of the main reasons why I thought that it would be a good idea to bring a meetup to Huntsville, because I feel like as far as development goes, whether it be hardware or software, we have a large bed of talent as far as engineers go. And so I just feel like it's a sleeping giant.
Yeah, man, it definitely seems like that. I know, yeah, I believe NASA has a big base there. Is that correct as well?
Yes, NASA
Yeah.
does, and like I said, we have the Space and Rocket Center. And I've actually met quite a few Bitcoin developers that have told me that as a child they visited because they came down for space camp. So we get a lot of people that come down for the space camp that we have at the Space and Rocket Center here.
Hence the Rocket City Bitcoin meetup, huh?
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Um, yeah, you kind of got into your orange pill story, but let's take a deeper dive into it. you kind of described like getting a little bit of exposure and kind of sitting on the sidelines for a little bit. Um, well, what made you decide to, kind of, I guess, I had Craig at Bitcoin underscore fan PHAN, the creator of the Bitcoin game on, and his thing was, in the Bitcoin space, everybody kind of talks about proof of work, when it comes to mining, and he really challenges Bitcoiners to go out there and do their own proof of work to kind of help the space and help everything grow. So, what kind of made you want to start that proof of work, and what kind of I guess gave you the light to kind of start connecting with people in the Bitcoin space after sitting on the sidelines for a bit?
It's just a passion that I have. I'm very passionate about Bitcoin, and I've done enough research on it to where I've graduated from the phase of just number go up. A lot of people, they come for the number go up, but then they end up staying because they get, they fall in love with the community. That's one thing I can say about the Bitcoin community is that it's a welcoming community. I've not had anybody slam a door in my face. Of anytime I've asked anybody for tips or advice with the meetup or Bitcoin related matters, I always get a prompt response. So it's just like the stars just kind of align and everything just kind of worked out. Again, it doesn't hurt to live in a place called a Rocket City, so that kind of attracts people too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, yeah, like you said, you're doing a lot, to just from me knowing you and seeing you travel around, going to a lot of these meetups to kind of um, learn from other successful meetups on how to run one. And so, why don't you describe your experience like running it? You said that it's we talked a little bit on the pre-show that it's starting to grow a little bit. So, how I guess successful has it been trying to grow it? And have you noticed that maybe here with like little dips here or there that you've seen a little stall out, or are you guys still seeing quite a bit of growth?
Well, here lately, we've been seeing growth. Now, at our last meetup, we had some OG members that weren't able to attend for various reasons, family issues and things of that nature. Excuse me. But we actually had 5 new guys. So I would say on average, we're probably averaging anywhere from 12 to 16 people on a regular basis. I would say one of the key things that I've noticed about managing a meetup or organizing it, facilitating it, is this: consistency. And then also putting an emphasis on community, letting the meetup members know, hey, myself and B, we're just facilitators. We saw a gap and we filled it, but this is the community's meetup. So we always try to receive input and feedback from our members, to keep them active, and to always remind them that this is our meetup, the community's meetup, and it's not something that me and B, run, without the input of the community. So I would say the number one things I've noticed is emphasize the community aspect of it. Also empower your members, if they want to get involved in Bitcoin things and do various things to help the meetup, empower them. And like I said, consistency. If you're new to starting a meetup, your first meetup you may have 2 or 3 people, and then your next meetup you may have 10, and then your next one you may have 5. Don't get discouraged. Just stay consistent. And one other thing I would say is this: content is king, in my opinion. So you want to try to have active media outlet, whether that be blogging about it or Twitter. We use Twitter a lot, and a lot of people, they can come and find you there, so you can reach a larger audience.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin Twitter is big, not only for that, like reaching a big audience. I think it's big for learning, at least for me these days. I jump onto Twitter Spaces all the time and connect with people, and that's also how I keep in contact with a lot of people as well. So that's how we kept in contact through Twitter DMs for a long time too. So yeah, that's great. And you also kind of hinted at it pre-show. You have something big coming up later this week. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Actually, tomorrow we have Captain Sid, the Bitcoin Harley rider. He doing the Bitcoin tour, and I actually met him out in Miami, and so we decided that we wanted to try to get together while he was on his tour, and so he decided he wanted to come and hang out. So myself and B, we tried to put something together, and we called it the unofficial official meetup 4.5 because we just completed our fourth meetup uh, the third weekend of last month, and so now he's coming down, and so we hope that we can accommodate him, and he has a good time and he can speak highly of our meetup.
That's awesome. Yeah. So sounds like big things are going on in Huntsville, Alabama. So that yeah, that's really encouraging. I know a couple. I know that he's like basically riding around and trying to go to other meetups. Do you know of any other I guess big places he's going? Is he kind of are you guys on his route, or is he just making a special trip for you guys?
No, I believe we're on his route. Currently, he's in Nashville. He's been there for a few days, and before that, he was in Austin. They had a big conference out there. I believe it's the Beef Initiative Conference, and so he's going to stop in for a day to check us out, and then I believe his next stop is either Chattanooga or Charlotte. I can't remember. I know it's one of those C cities, but I think we're on his route.
That's awesome, and that's good. It ended up working out pretty well then. So you guys, yeah. So all right, so we've kind of talked about, the meetup a little bit. Now let's get into the Bitcoin community. You've hinted at it before where you said, it's been very welcoming and everything like that. What has been the coolest experience that you have gone through, just being in the Bitcoin space?
Um, I went to a particular meetup in Nashville, and there was a well-known Bitcoiner that showed up unscheduled. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who this individual was. They wanted to keep it kind of secret. So I guess let's just say that more than likely you're using this individual's product. You know, it's a well-known Bitcoin wallet, and this individual has done a lot on the international scale, and so that was one of the coolest experiences. Um, I actually went to Bitcoin conference, and that was my first conference. That was another cool experience. And then I had to say, man, I had to put us out there. Another great experience was hanging out with you and your old co-host. Uh, yeah, I had to spoil. I had to let everybody know those guys are still great friends. Don't get tricked on Twitter. So that was a great. I had a great time hanging out with you guys, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you're putting us in great company. But yeah, I think that the cool thing about the Nashville meetup is, it gets so many people from all over. Like yourself, myself. I'm not from Nashville. I just went up and went there, and I think you got to RSVP, and I think if you don't, you can't. It's not one of those things where you can RSVP right before. You kind of have to do it, well in advance. So you got to plan some things out in order to be there, but overall, great things going on in Nashville, and I believe going on in Austin as well. So yeah, you've been out to the Austin meetup as well, right?
I have. I've not actually been to the meetup itself, but I'm real good friends with a lot of the guys out in Austin, especially the guys over at Pleb Lab. If you're not following those guys, I suggest that you go and find those guys on Twitter because they're putting together something very special at Pleb Lab. And if I understand it correctly, what they are is a Bitcoin business accelerator. They're the only one that I know of in the whole world, and they have a lot of interesting projects, and they're a very close knit group of guys. They showed me a lot of love. They actually put together a Bitcoin meetup symposium for myself and one of my friends that goes by G. He's the founder of the San Antonio Bitcoin Club, and they gave us tips and advice and insight on how to organize and properly run a meetup. And then we just hung out, man. And I have to say, uh, Austin definitely lives up to the billing of Bitcoin Mecca. It's just different when you go out there. I was only out there for 2 days, 2.5 days, and I was getting sucked in. I said, man, I need to move out here. But then I said, no, I had to stay back in Alabama. I had to keep, building with what we have going on in Alabama. But it's real nice out in Austin.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. So I'm actually going back next week, but I'm going back for like a wedding. It was kind of like a COVID wedding, so it's like a reception and some other things. But and unfortunately, I'm missing the meetups. But maybe I'll try to contact some of the awesome Bitcoiners that I know out there, or maybe I'll get with you too and put me in contact. I go get a coffee or get a drink or something with those guys too. That'd be awesome. Yeah. So I hear big things going on in Austin. So let's bring it back to you. So we've been talking about all the work that you've been doing, and you've been facilitating everything, saying how great everybody else is. But how has Bitcoin changed your life, and where do you see yourself going in the Bitcoin space?
Man, I'm a humble guy, man. I just like to see, the people around me succeed, and I feel like a Bitcoin is one of those things that can help, everybody around the world succeed. That's what really drew me to Bitcoin, is the fact that it's a community based situation. It gives the power back to the people. It gives people the opportunity to become more educated. I can honestly say, um, I feel like I've learned more just trying to study and understand Bitcoin than I ever did in the college classroom, man. I just had to be honest, and I love it. Like, it's one of the few things that when I sit down and try to learn it, it doesn't get bored. It never gets old. Every day it's like a new adventure. I always joke with a lot of the people in the Bitcoin community. I'm like, we're just a bunch of big kids running all over the place. You know, we don't know what we're actually doing, but we're figuring it out as we go. And as far as I see myself in the space, man, I mean, wherever, I'm led, as long as it's a situation where I can help other people and, empower other people to succeed, I would love, to find myself in a situation like that. Uh, so that's where I stand with that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I agree with you 100%. When it comes to learning, and I think everybody in the Bitcoin community kind of has that similarity where they're all like just trying to figure it out. They're maybe they look into it for, like you said, the number go up or something along those lines, and then you're like, okay, I put some money into this. Let me figure this out, and then you start figuring out, and then you realize how many other things just the fiat world and the fiat education and all this kind of stuff affects. And so you realize how many things money touches, and it's like, okay, well, you start digging into the other things like meat, food processing, all
Hmm.
these other kind of things that you start like really just digging into. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin is just hard sound money. And then you end up getting down the rabbit hole somewhere else. And it's really interesting kind of how it affects. But I think the one thing that a lot of Bitcoiners have in common is that they're constantly learning, constantly trying to educate themselves and figure some things out. So yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because I feel really the same way there. And then, all right, last question about you before we jump into some current events. You are from Huntsville, and I know at the state of Alabama, there's always one question that everybody's got to answer: Alabama or Auburn. So which fan are you, and how do you think the Iron Bowl is going to go in the fall?
Oh man, I should have known you was gonna ask this question, man. I'm a college football fan.
Oh man, you're trying not to make any enemies, huh?
I'm gonna just say this: my co-organizer B, he's an Auburn grad, so I stay neutral.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta stay neutral, huh?
I think he knows where I stand though, but if I had to pick a team, I'm gonna pick the Tide. I'm a
There
roll
you go.
Tide guy.
There
And
you go.
as far as the Iron Bowl goes, I like Alabama's chances in Bryant-Denny Stadium this year.
There we go. Well, I mean, hey, A&M might come and upset them again this year, so I had to throw that in there.
We'll have
Well,
to see because they owe you guys.
yeah. Nick Saban's probably been playing that constantly in the background, all off season. So Alabama, that game either goes one or two ways. We sneak up on Alabama and somehow win the game, or Alabama stomps us. So hopefully it won't be the latter. I have faith in Jimbo Fisher, but like I said, we shall see. All right, now let's get into some current event stories we got going on. So, yesterday, or maybe not yesterday, well, we're recording this on Thursday, May 5th. For those listening in audio, it's released on Friday the 6th. So that's actually the actual date where the Harley Davidson Bitcoin rider is coming to Huntsville. So if you're in Huntsville listening to this, get with at Huntsville BTC on Twitter and figure out all the details there. I believe it's probably on your Meetup page as well. Is that correct?
Yes. You guys can actually go to rocketcitybitcoin.org. We're in the process of putting up a website, but right now it forwards to our meetup.com page. So you can go there to get all the details and RSVP.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you're in the Huntsville area, be sure to check that out, because that sounds like a really cool opportunity. You get to see somebody that's been riding around, seeing Bitcoiners from all over the United States. So big and small cities, and sounds like Huntsville's on the rise there, thanks to Justin and B just organizing it and building a strong community there. So kudos to you for doing all that. But yeah, let's get into the current event stories. So. I believe it was on Tuesday, I want to say, that the Fed, Jerome Powell, got in front of everybody and announced that he's raising rates by 50 basis points, or 0.5%, which is the largest move since the year 2000. And he's
Wow,
doing
that's
this.
2 decades.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since they've done this a rate hike this high. And essentially, for those that don't know, the rates at the beginning of this year were near zero. The Fed met, I believe, a couple months ago and raised them 25 basis points, so 0.25%. So now they raised it by 0.5, and they announced too that they plan to do this again for the next two meetings at the very least. And so the raising of the basis points of the interest rates is an attempt to kind of slow down inflation. So Bitcoin's kind of known as like an inflation hedge. But essentially, after this was announced, everything kind of shot up initially because, it was like a 50 basis point rate hike opposed to 75, which was potentially on the table. But since then, we've had a big crash on everything. Essentially, we're all poor now. But what do you think about the Fed raising interest rates? How do you think that affects, I guess, the overall economy and Bitcoin as a whole?
The first thing I would say is this: I would ask the Fed chair, has he talked to the everyday man or woman on the street? Because a lot of times when I read this information and I'm looking at these stories, it seems as if those individuals are disconnected from the everyday person. And then another thing too is I question how many people actually understand Bitcoin, because as you were saying, Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. That's one of the many purposes it can serve. And it seems as if with that hike, that 0.5 hike, everybody rushed into cash and got out of everything else. So I guess it's kind of alarming to me because it doesn't make any sense to me. So it lets me know that as meetup organizers, we still have a lot of work to do, because if these individuals actually understood a Bitcoin, the number will be going up, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, people are going to run to cash, and at the first sight of some scary stuff in the economy, whether it was the shutdowns that we saw in March of 2020, or this, where we're seeing massive amounts of inflation and a lot of signs kind of pointing to a recession coming ahead. So, in my opinion, I think people are just going to take their money out of all their investments. But hey, at the end of the day, that makes cheaper sats for the rest of us who are
It
just,
does.
keep stacking. So
And then once we educate the people and they understand what's really going on, then that helps number go up. But one thing I will say is this. Um, this is, I mean, literally, in my opinion, this is trending to zero. This is, if you study history and you understand how fiat currencies work, eventually they trend to zero. And so with everybody running to cash, it's like a double-edged sword. You feel like you're going to safety, but you have cash, which is that can be printed at any moment. So the purchasing power, that cash goes down. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, unless you buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, people don't realize how many things that this affects, right? So
Hmm.
not only that the Fed are, this rate hike affects, businesses borrowing money, it affects, home prices too, and it affects like home mortgages. So we've seen mortgage rates. I was lucky enough in September 2022 to purchase a house and get a rate under 3%. And now, you'd be very, very lucky to get a rate near 5%. So, that obviously, though it might not sound a lot, where it's like, okay, 2% or 2.5%, whatever, but over a 30-year mortgage and with the amount of money that the houses are inflating to, that's a lot per month.
Yes, it
And
is.
yeah, if you kind of look at like the breakdown of mortgages and other things like that, you're paying mostly interest on your monthly payment, and you're not really paying, mortgage or any of the down payments or anything like that. So, it's housing, and we're seeing other things getting inflated too when it comes to gas prices, grocery bills, and everything like that. So I think the Fed's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place, as much time as I want to, or as much of a hard time as I want to give them. But
Yeah,
I
they're
do,
cannibalizing themselves.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
really their hands are tied. Again, this is literally musical chairs that's taking place, and it's only so many seats left.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's a great way to put it. And like you said at the beginning, where did they have they ever talked to the common man? And I think last year Jerome Powell famously in an interview said, nobody's walked into my office and told me that they need to raise the interest rates to help the wealth gap or anything like that. So just making a comment like that just makes me feel that he's extremely disconnected, and it's unfortunate, because I feel like the damage is somewhat already done with all the money printing that's happened, and we're basically having to raise rates, and it's essentially going to tank the economy or take the stock market. So like we've been saying, and as Bitcoiners very much know, it's like we need a hard sound money or another solution. And right now, it seems like the short term solution might lead to a recession. So, everybody kind of be prepared for a little, a little dip in everything here and there. And yeah, hopefully the, Bitcoin as an inflation hedge narrative will kind of start to hold true. I think, the bears were kind of jumping at it today because I think Bitcoin is, maybe floating around 35K last time I saw, 36K or something along those lines. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's back around 36. And actually I had a buddy of mine that sent me a chart. We had a phone call earlier this week, or maybe it was the end of last week, and he predicted this. He said that Bitcoin was going to touch anywhere from 35 to 34. And I had to text him today and I said, man, you were right.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just a good stacking opportunity. I talk to friends and everybody that's kind of in the Bitcoin space, and nobody seems to be worried about it. They just kind of are worried more about like the public perception.
Hmm.
And I think the more you buy, whether it's daily, cost average, weekly, or biweekly, you just have a set amount. Um, and you kind of have a set schedule, however you do it, the less you look at the price. The price doesn't really concern you as much. So at the end of the day, I think it's tough times ahead for the Fed and for the economy. And I think a lot of decisions that were made in the past are kind of going to be affecting how we do this going forward. And it's we're basically scrambling, and like you said, it's a game of musical chairs, and the chairs are running out. So it's only a matter of time, unfortunately. All right, now let's get to the second story I got on the foot. So it's along the lines of government politics, that kind of stuff. But the SEC doubles the staff to monitor crypto activity. Did you see this story?
I did. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll give
Okay.
my opinion after you fill in more of what the story
Yeah.
is about.
So essentially, the SEC is upping the crypto assets and cyber unit force that monitors crypto activity, and it's not doubling it quite, but it's from 30 to 50 people. Since it's created its task force, it's had 80 enforcement actions. So it sounds like quite a bit, but 80 enforcement transactions that were unregistered fraudulent crypto assets. So I want to make a quick distinction here, is that they're really focused on crypto and they're not focused on Bitcoin. But the platforms have a monetary release of greater than $2 billion, all from just these 80 enforcement actions. So a large amount of spreads. So they're looking at very large transactions and kind of some manipulation there. And I also think, although this story is about monitoring crypto activity, I think the big story or underlying story here is that the SEC notes that Bitcoin is not a security, so it doesn't fall under the same umbrella as crypto or like digital assets or anything like that. So I think it's really interesting that the SEC is already kind of noting that crypto and Bitcoin are two separate things. But what are your thoughts of like the SEC doubling this crypto, monitoring, I guess, union that they got going on?
I don't know if you've heard or read yet, but I tend to agree with crypto mom, Hester Pierce. She made a valid point. She made a valid statement. She said that the SEC is a regulatory agency and not an enforcement agency. And, she feels like with adding these additional jobs, they're trying to become an unofficial enforcement agency. So, I always tend to side with the everyday individual. I feel like any competent man and woman can manage their own finances. And if we're going to be really honest here, the people who may need the help the most, they more than likely aren't investors. They don't, they don't have the means to be able to invest. So, it's just, and then another thing I want to say too is that I feel like this is just more of what um, the Bitcoin community deals with on a regular basis, which is FUD. It's a big headline, and most people, they see headlines and they get nervous, and then they get shook out of their positions, and then those same individuals that are talking about enforcement will probably have the biggest bags of sats sitting to the sideline. So I wouldn't get caught up in that. I think they don't actually know what they're doing. Uh, I'm kind of disappointed in Gary Gensler. Um, you know, Everyone was hoping and thinking that he was somebody that would be a friend. And I guess in a way, if you're not a supporter of crypto, I guess you can kind of say he is a friend of Bitcoin, because it seems like he's going scorched earth on crypto. And it was something else that I wanted to talk about that you pointed out about how the SEC recognizes Bitcoin as not being a security. I always tell people, to go um, read the white paper and do a little research, because you can find out why there's, in my opinion, a specific reason as to why the SEC would never consider Bitcoin a security, and it has to do with it being open source, and it not having a group of people that had equity in said company, because there is no company. So most of these other projects, I would say, 99% of them, they're set up like traditional companies, and so they have founders and developers who have equity and stake in it. And then once these other tokens get listed, they dump. So they fall on a traditional definition of a security that never took place in Bitcoin. But again, I just think that this is more FUD, and it's more than likely going to do what it's designated to do, which is scare people.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I can kind of drawing back just from historical things that I remember seeing. I think I remember seeing like Jake Paul or some of these other like YouTubers or maybe even a pro athlete getting paid by SafeMoon. I know Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports. He promoted that he bought a bunch of that, but allegedly, he lost a bunch of money on that. So, and he didn't get paid for his promotion, but others did. And I think that this task force is kind of along the lines of what you're describing. Celebrities get in, they pour a bunch of money into it, and then or they get paid for promoting it or something along those lines. So we see how much an Elon tweet can affect Bitcoin and Dogecoin and other things like that. I imagine other people are like, okay, so and so has such a big following, so they can tweet about it, and once they tweet about it, the price is going to go up, and it's just a big pump and dump. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of these things kind of happening under the table, and I think this task force is more so focused on that opposed to Bitcoin, and I think that's good for the investor. As much as I hate to see, some regulation around this stuff, I think it's more so to protect people from, these seemingly like Ponzi schemes or rug pulls. Just extreme manipulation where it's unfortunately that a lot of these people kind of fall for that trap, but maybe it'll lead more people to Bitcoin. Hopefully, like you said, it is FUD that it doesn't like get people to group in Bitcoin with crypto, because I think a lot of non-Bitcoiners kind of do that. And yeah, I hope it kind of just like leads more and more people to Bitcoin.
I agree 100%, man. That's one thing that we try to emphasize at our meetup is the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. It's kind of it's really disappointing when you see, everybody lump in crypto and Bitcoin because to me, the other stuff is a distraction from, the one thing that everybody should be putting their main focus and time into, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. We actually have a question from the audience here. We got the Canadian Bitcoiners asking about the Bitcoin conference. So both you and I, we went to this conference, we met up and everything like that there. So there's kind of mixed reviews on Twitter. A lot of people were kind of talking about the shitcoinery that was going around there. So what were your thoughts overall on the conference? And then I can kind of go in and give my thoughts a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, it was a lot of crap cornery going on. In fact, I'm not sure if you remember, but there was a situation at the conference there. Steven from Atlanta Bit Devs and Bitcoin Design Guide and myself, we were having a conversation, and a guy approached us, out of nowhere, and he had some type of crypto live podcast, and he caught us off guard, and so he got some footage of us speaking on that. This is what I can say. When I was at the conference, again, there was a lot of crap coins, but what I did was I had tunnel vision. I didn't let it distract me. It didn't take away from my experience of the conference. And I mean, ultimately, I guess Bitcoin won. I guess the best analogy I can use is this. It's like when you go in the ocean and you see one of those great white sharks, and you see those little, I don't know what you call them, but they're feeding and cleaning the shark. Or
Guppies or something.
yeah, they clean. Or it's like the hippo in the wilderness with the little bird that's cleaning. So that's kind of how I saw it. I said, okay, at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody trying to sell you something. I don't honestly believe that we are going to ever live in a world where somebody is not trying to sell something. So it was Bitcoin conference game because they got to throw a larger conference. And if you were there for Bitcoin only things, then I don't think that you got distracted by the crap coins that were circulating.
Yeah, so I agree with you there, and I think my biggest takeaway from there was that there was, and I do remember that instance, and I think that there was another one too where you kind of we're talking to somebody and you're like, hey, they're like, hey, I got some Bitcoin, but I got
Yeah.
some other things, and they were trying to convince us to get into other things, and we were trying to tell him a little bit why we were Bitcoin and Bitcoin only, and he didn't really want to hear any of it, but.
And I
Um,
told that gentleman that I would pound him to submission intellectually
yes, you
about
did.
Bitcoin versus the other stuff, and it was and all in good fun.
Yeah, exactly. And Justin isn't very confrontational either. Very nice guy in person, very friendly. But this was the first time I saw him like really, all right, if you want to go out and debate this, like I'm ready to go. So, I love to see the passion and everything about that as well. But I agree with you there. I think, the conference is what you make of it, right? So I
Hmm.
think, we got there and we were able to connect, and you connected with quite a few people that helped me meet a lot of people too. And I think that's really what these conferences are about, is like not necessarily all about the talks or, the flash or the flare of these big, shows in front of this. And as much as Jack Mallers does for the space, it's not really about his, getting up on the stage, like announcing, yo, this, yo, that. I think it's more so about like, you just being there and being with so many Bitcoiners, whether it's, it's not exactly the full 25,000, but it's, I would say probably majority of people that I met were Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. But I mean, we did get people that talked to us about, shit coins. And I think it's in the positions you put yourself, there's definitely a lot of places that you could have gone as just Bitcoiners. And yeah, and I think that that's what it's kind of about, like just meeting all these people in real life where, you've just kind of connected over Twitter, and it's just a big giant meetup. So I kind of like that aspect.
Yeah, I don't think that the crap cornery was enough to stop somebody from going and experience the conference. Don't let that stop you. If you've never been to Bitcoin conference, you need to go. Don't get caught up in that because you're there to see Bitcoin only stuff. And I've always been the type of individual. I only worry about the things I can control. I can't control, the type of deals that Bitcoin Magazine decides to make. But I will say kudos to Bitcoin Magazine because they pulled it off. They did an excellent job. Um, I'd like to thank the people who invited me. I actually volunteered at the Meetup booth. So Bitcoin Magazine showed me a lot of love and they did an awesome job.
Yeah, I think people underestimate, how tough it is and how much money it takes to put on a conference of that size and that magnitude. But
Mhm.
I think they did a good job. So, all right, enough about the conference. Let's get on to the next story. So, I think there's a little bit of FUD too surrounding this one. So, MicroStrategy, they had their earnings call the other day, earlier this week, and in that call, the CFO Fong Lee, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, but uh, he basically was asked the question, how low does Bitcoin need to go before there's a margin call, or you need to put up more collateral? And he answered with 21,000. And now, so because Bitcoin is dropping low, it's like 36,000 or so. It's still a good like what 15 or 50 plus percent away from falling that low, or pretty close to 50%. So there's still a significant dip that would need to occur in order for that to happen. But I think that a lot of the shitcoiners or Bitcoin bears and whatever you want to call them, anybody that wants to rip on Bitcoin and MicroStrategy for that matter, is kind of jumping at this story saying that MicroStrategy is going to fail And the reason why is because they invested so heavily into Bitcoin. And that's just simply not the case. MicroStrategy still has a lot of free cash flow. They still make a lot of money, and they can put up more collateral, whether it's fiat or Bitcoin, in order to avoid having to margin call for that loan that they took to buy more Bitcoin. It seems like it was kind of unfortunate timing that this Bitcoin dropped so heavily after they bought so much of it. But what do you think about I guess the bears and everybody else kind of attacking MicroStrategy?
I think secretly the Bears wish they had done what Michael Saylor had done. I also think that if you know anything about Michael Saylor, he's not a foolish man. I think he has contingencies in place. I think he would be prepared if Bitcoin was to dip because he went all in. And um, I can't remember the name of his book, but it was very prophetic. He predicted a lot of things, as far as network effects in different industries and stuff. So he strikes me as the type of individual that thinks long term. So I'm pretty sure he would be prepared for that. More than likely, he could go in his own personal stash and put that up if it was about to be a margin call. Uh, and the Bears are always looking for some type of something because they know their time is coming. It's only a matter of time. I have a few friends, very smart individuals, computer scientists, that work for the government and things, and they're not Bitcoiners. They're old school legacy investors, and so I can't find them when we're not in the bear market. But as soon as there's a dip, I can't keep them away. So, I just laugh. It's all in good fun, but I don't get caught up in all of that. Again, it's just more fun, more the same. You can go to the year and pick the date, and there's some similar story. There's some type of FUD or bear story trying to promote that. But I wouldn't get caught up in that because, in my opinion, every day that the Bitcoin network is up, it gets stronger and stronger. And that's another day for a new individual to become educated and buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you there. And I think, it's just like you said, just people just trying to poke at it and not really, taking the time to take the deep dive into what he was saying. And it was a question that he was asked too. So it wasn't like he just flat out said it like it was a worry for him going forward. So I don't really think MicroStrategy is worried. I don't think investors that are investing in MicroStrategy are really worried. I think that people that want MicroStrategy to fail because they've invested so heavily in Bitcoin are the ones that are kind of jumping at this too, just like you're saying. So overall, I don't really think that it's a big deal, but it seemed to be going around the I'll call it the crypto Twitter space, because I don't think the Bitcoiners were really really worried about it. Maybe they just were just reply guys to go at these guys. But hey, sometimes Bitcoin Twitter goes at some people, so it makes them it makes Bitcoiners look a little bit smarter too. So. All right, now let's move into the next story. So we talked a little bit earlier about, or I brought up Jack Mallers about him at the conference, but he did another big thing here too. His big thing is Bitcoin is the internet's soundest money, right? So he's solving one of the biggest problems on the internet. At least, I'm sure everybody in the audience and everybody watching this has experienced some sort of spam when it comes to email. So he has worked with this company called Reacher, and there's like you can make a Reacher.me email. And so what this does is it requires you to pay, I believe, $1 over the Lightning Network. And that dollar then gets sent to Jack. And then once that dollar is sent to Jack, that email is then forwarded to his actual email account, whether it's his Strike email or what have you. So he's trying to use Bitcoin and the Lightning Network to solve spam, which is a very big problem. I know, even without spam, I get, way too many emails at work and all these sign up things that I have going on. So all these subscription emails or whatever. sometimes it just gets way too much. I think, so I've seen some people have tens of thousands of unread emails. I'm not that kind of person. I got to open every single one and delete it. I probably need to go through and try to unsubscribe, but some of these places make it a little bit harder to unsubscribe to their email threads. So what do you think about Maulers, partnering with Reacher to create a Bitcoin or to create an email address that requires an invoice of $1 per email?
I think it's a great idea. I think if memory serves me correct, during my time researching Bitcoin, I think that Adam Back had a similar idea with something called Hashcoin. Trying to solve spam issues, and so I don't think the technology was available at the time to be able to pull that off. But with Bitcoin and the Lightning Network, you're able to do that. And another thing too, I think a second order effect of that, which is positive, is we live in a day and age where everything is vying for your attention. So I think one of the positives is now you're being paid for your attention on your email. So that seems to be the most valuable resource now, is a person's attention. Everywhere we go, there's some screen trying to pitch you or sell you on something or shield you on something. So I feel like um, that gives some protection and power back to the people, not having to deal with spam, because, it's a distraction. Like you said, when you're at work and you check your email, these apps and things are designed to keep your attention. So you get that buzz on your laptop or your desktop or your computer. You get this itch and you want to look at it. But now, if you're being paid to look at it, you'll take a little bit more time to check it out. And again, it'll keep those bots away. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good idea too. And I think, maybe it won't be something that, the average Joe can have, but,
Hmm.
I think for the bigger people, like especially like Malers, and maybe if you're going to a big conference and you're giving a talk, it might be good to give out this email instead of just getting spammed by, thousands of people. So I agree. I think it's a big, big issue that's been ahead. And you're right. On Mahler's tweet thread, he actually, cited Adam Back's idea with Hashcash, and he said, the internet didn't have a native currency at the time, which is Bitcoin. So it was impossible to use the global micropayments to solve the problem. Thus, Hashcash became a proof of work system to burden the sender with hardware cost. So you're right. It's not Mahler's original idea, but he did cite Adam Back, and Adam Back is as a legend in the Bitcoin space. So he's done a lot for everything, and yeah, kind of gave Mahler's this idea. So along the lines of communication, we have Binance committing 500 million to Elon Musk's investment in Twitter. So Elon, everybody has kind of, if you haven't heard the news by now, but Elon made a very large offer to purchase Twitter, and it seems like everything is going through there. And Binance is a big crypto and Bitcoin exchange, and they're committing 500 million to Elon's investment in Twitter. Where I think this is interesting is Strike right now, they aren't necessarily partnered with Twitter, to my understanding, but they helped Twitter implement tips and payments through your Twitter profile. So if you go to my Twitter profile right now, you could technically go and tip me from wherever you want, and you could send me Bitcoin or dollars through the Lightning Network. The thing that I'm curious about here is whether or not Binance is going to try to implement something along those lines. Like you can purchase Bitcoin and to lesser extent crypto on the Twitter platform. That is one thing that worries me about this. We've had Elon kind of come out and say that he owns Bitcoin, mostly Bitcoin, but he owns a little Ethereum and he owns Dogecoin. And he tweets about Dogecoin somewhat frequently. So, although he hasn't in a while, but every time he does, it makes big headlines. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Binance committing 500 million to Elon's investment in Twitter?
Um, I think also we should pay closer attention to not only Binance but the other investors, Andreessen Horowitz, I believe Sequoia Capital, and if you pay close attention, you will see that a lot of these individuals not only are crypto supporters, but they're Web 3.0 supporters. So I'm looking at it at a macro perspective, and I'm saying, okay, not only with Binance and like you saying, implementing, implementing crypto as far as tips and things, but how would this impact Twitter as far as this movement of Web 3.0? Because these other individuals, I'm pretty sure they're investing with some type of understanding that they will have some input on the direction of Twitter. And as you said, Elon is not a Bitcoin only individual. So, a lot of people on Bitcoin Twitter are celebrating, but would there be a Bitcoin Twitter moving forward if all these people have their say and they implement this Web 3.0 and crypto tipping and things of that nature?
Yeah, so I think the one thing I do think about Elon is that he's very much for freedom of speech and for the rights that stand by in the Constitution for the United States. So one thing that I do think is he's not going to censor anybody, and I don't think that he's going to create an algorithm to promote other things. But I think that they're going to try to solve like a cash flow problem that Twitter's always had. Twitter's always had some sort of issue on how do they make money, how do they monetize it. And I actually got tweeted at earlier today by somebody where they're talking, or by Buddy_Barker. So shout out to him if he's listening. But they there's been a demand for promoted tweets, not only promoted tweets, but promoted hashtags where it's kind of saying something is trending. And Twitter's advertising now has reported increased the daily price of promoted trends to $200,000 a day. And so I got tweeted at this because I saw Coinbase was trending, hashtag Coinbase. So I was wondering why. And it was their NFT profile, or their NFT launch, where you can custody NFTs on their profile or on their platform, is now live. And then from that too, I saw Coinbase NFT marketplace has gained less than 150 users in the first day opened per Decrypt. So a lot of things to say that essentially, even though there has been some shitcoinery and some promoting of other things on Twitter, it seems like people are kind of waking up to the fact that NFTs are kind of a scam right now. So maybe they'll wake up to other things soon enough. But it seemed like maybe the NFT thing was all flash in the pan, and hopefully we'll move forward from that, and people will figure out, like we've always been saying, it's Bitcoin and Bitcoin only.
Yeah, the NFT craze kind of reminds me of the ICO craze in 2017, late 2016. It's one of those things where if you've been through it, you just sit back and shake your head. And when family and friends come and ask you about NFTs, you just say, "Hey, if that's what you want to do, all I can do is tell you to stick with the Bitcoin only stuff. But if you want to learn a hard lesson, then go right on over there and learn it. And I'll still be here after, you get burned."
Exactly. All right, now let's get into the last story. So this is kind of I guess just like a one-off, like minuscule story, but I think that there's a deeper solution here. So Bentley University, I believe it's in, I don't even know. I don't want to get this wrong.
It's in Massachusetts. I'm not sure which city, but I know it's in Massachusetts.
Okay, so it's in Massachusetts, and they will accept Bitcoin for tuition. So
Crypto for tuition. We have to be all the way transparent.
yeah, exactly. So they'll accept Bitcoin/crypto for
Yes.
tuition. So where I think that this is good is that, not only are uh, not only are they accepting it, is that, if Bitcoin kind of turns out to what we all believe it is in the Bitcoin space, where number go up and the cost of the dollar goes down, that would mean that the value for tuition would be decreasing, and so you could technically pay that on a depreciating scale. And with the rising cost of um, tuition, and the unaffordability and the massive amount of student loans that people have taken all over the globe, and specifically in the United States too, where everybody's kind of suffering from this. We were talking a lot about this in the Canadian Bitcoiners, which I was on yesterday. That student loans are, at the average person pays them off by the age of 42. So a lot of these people, a lot of younger millennials, are holding off buying houses and doing all that, and holding off having kids, and starting things a lot later. And I believe a large reason of that is student loan debt. So now, as long as tuition doesn't rise as rapidly as Bitcoin does, which I find it kind of hard to believe, because Bitcoin can go 50% moves in a day, 20% moves in a day, whereas tuition, it takes a lot to change those prices. Maybe they'll change year over year, but in order for it to be changed, daily, that's not going to happen. So I think that it's a good step to kind of combat the overall issue with how expensive it is to go to college. But obviously, I would hope that they just accept Bitcoin opposed to Bitcoin slash crypto. So what do you think about all this? Am I just kind of spewing some bull, and you think that this is just a publicity stunt at a Bentley University, or do you think that there's some wind behind this?
I believe it's kind of hard to say. When I looked into this, I saw that one of the scholars said that the students are very interested in blockchain technology. So obviously they're not, very well versed, and they don't have a grasp. I think, in a sense, it is kind of a ploy, to try to attract, more students. And also, I always wondered, okay, if I pay in Bitcoin and number goes up, and let's say I paid my tuition my sophomore year, and then by the end of my junior year, the amount that I paid in my sophomore year, now I'm fully paid because number has gone up. So how does that work? Those are the type of questions, that we have to try to find answers to. And I guess the only positive to it is this is more hyper Bitcoinization that's taking place right before our eyes. I think you may have had another guest on, Hetty Wook, and he made some valid points. That we are already living in hyper Bitcoinization, and I think that was a valid point. That's more of this, but I mean, it does have wind behind it, because there will be individuals that will pay with crypto, but in the same sense, it's maybe you and I need to go up to Bentley University and sit down, with some of the important people, some of the people in the administration.
Yeah, exactly. I think the education system is realizing that a lot of students are self-educating here too, and I think that they're trying to you know put a ploy into that, and they're realizing that a lot of Bitcoiners and students in general are kind of finding other ways to make money, or finding other ways to earn an income. And maybe Bitcoin jobs specifically, it's more of like we said at the beginning of the show, proof of work, proving that you can do this, proving that you have the skills. And Bitcoiners don't really care about necessarily the college degrees or all those backgrounds, because at the end of the day, nobody really learned about this in college. So I think that they're kind of backtracking and trying to get people to learn a little bit more about this. But at the end of the day, I think the education system still has a long way to go in order to educate the professors and the people that are going to be giving the lessons, opposed to just the students. Because I think the students now, you have so much access to information at your fingertips, whether it's Google, YouTube, blogs, where Substack, Medium, like all these people putting out content, your stuff, your meetups, all the other stuff too that people got going on, where people are, coming and talking and sharing ideas where they're realizing like, hey, like you said at the beginning, like you're learning more in Bitcoin that you didn't really learn in a college class. So I think that they're kind of hearing that and they're a little bit worried. And so that they're doing these kind of things, maybe for publicity, but I do think, like you and Hetty Walk alluded to, that hyper Bitcoinization, now you can start paying almost all your bills and everything like that in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think Bit Refill just revealed something, where you can pay your bills with Bitcoin and crypto. So again, it's taking place right before our eyes. That's usually how change takes place. It's not like in the movies. It's kind of subtle. And then you look up and it's like, wow, we're here. It's kind of like with the cell phone. I can remember growing up, and if you went to your parents and asked them, could you order something online, they would look at you and say, get out of my face. I'm not going to put my bank and my credit card information online. And now that's all anybody ever does is put everything online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, you can do that with Bit Refill. I know certain states you can pay taxes in Bitcoin and crypto too. So there's essentially, and I know like I want to say in Tampa or somewhere else, there's been housing purchased in Bitcoin too. So I think at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's becoming like hyper Bitcoinization, where if you really want to pay in Bitcoin, there's going to be somebody willing to take it. So yeah, I mean, I think overall it's positive, but I'm a little fishy about this one. I don't really know if it's super genuine or not, but we shall see. Time will tell. All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time today. That's the end of the stories. Now, why don't you wrap us up? Tell us where people can find you. Tell us a little bit about the schedule of the Bitcoin meetup. I know we kind of talked about, rocketcitybitcoin.org for the meetup, but yeah, why don't you get into that?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Huntsville BTC. That's Huntsville BTC. You can follow us and you can get updates there. You can also go to our website, which is rocketcitybitcoin.org. Like I said, we're in the process of putting up a full website, but right now it forwards to our meetup page. We meet every third Wednesday of the month at a local brewery here called the Nook, from 5 to 8. I also want to show a new T-shirt that we're coming out with now. Before I show it, there's quite a few people that I told I was going to send shirts to, and some have been waiting, I guess, for about a month. But I just want to make sure that I get all my orders in before I, order them, and then I had to order more. I want to try to get one big order, so I want to just show it on here. One of my friends at Play Up Lab. He blessed me with the art on the shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it.
But yeah, a little bit more center. Yeah, so it looks like you got the Rocket City, you got the Rockets in there, man. That's a swaggy shirt you got there.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna have to get your size and
Yeah.
send you one.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I'd love to have one.
you
So,
definitely, man. And
yeah.
yeah, man. And so, like I said, we have an unofficial meetup. Captain C is coming in tomorrow. So if you're in Alabama, close to Huntsville, come and hang out with us. All faces are welcome. Um, our meetup is Bitcoin only, but if you're somebody that's a crypto person, but you want to come in and learn more about Bitcoin, you're welcome to come in. We try not to do debates and things of that nature, not when we're covering topics and things, but if you want to have a healthy debate, I'm sure somebody will after the meetup. And so, yeah, just stay tuned. We have a lot of things planned. I can't talk about a lot of. And one thing I definitely want to do is I want to give a shout out to my buddy Max, the CEO of Eden 3D Printer. You can find him at eden3dprinter.com. I was actually, when I was in Miami, I was helping him at his booth. He does a lot in the Bitcoin community behind the scenes. the same thing with the guys over at Pleb Lab, Car Gonzalez, Kyle Murphy, just to name a few. Um, Keon, all the guys over at Pleb Lab. And I'm sorry if I didn't call your name, but I love you. You can get on to me later. But yeah, like I said, come check us out down here in Huntsville, Alabama, the Rocket City.
There we go. That's a great way to sign it off. It looks like you got a lot going on in Huntsville, and I definitely want to get out there at some point in time. Maybe later this summer, I'll make a trip to Huntsville and join you at one of these meetups, because it sounds like you got big things going on there. So, Justin, thank you so much for your time. Everybody check him out at Huntsville BTC. You can find all his information there. And that's it for me. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you back next week.